Shalom uvracha. It's tremendous to be back to learn together, and we're going to be learning one of the most exciting svarim that I think a teenager can learn in Hashkafa, and anybody. It's written by Moshe Chaim Luzzatto, born in 1707. It's well known that the Vilna Gaon said that the Ramchal had such the highest understanding of Torah, of Yiddishkeit, that any mortal could attain. And he said that if Moshe Chaim Luzzatto was alive in his generation, the Vilna Gaon would go by foot from Vilna to Italy to sit at his feet and learn from him. So we're talking about an incredible person. And this Sefer, I'll just tell you a little bit about what's in the index. So just to get a taste of what it's about. So it's got Yusodos, it's got fundamentals about Hashem, about the purpose of creation, about man, about death and the world's destruction, human responsibility, the spiritual world. What are malachim? What are mazikim? You hear these things sometimes. What's hashgacha? Hashgacha protis. What is the purpose? What's the purpose of this world? What's the purpose of Jews? What happens to the wicked? How does hashgacha work? What are stars? What are mazolos? What's the neshama? What's nevuah? What does Torah do? Most huge, amazing thing. How do we understand what Torah is all about? What davening is all about? Different aspects of davening, Shabbos, Yom Tovim, and the Ramchal goes through it all in the most amazing, systematic way. I remember when I was in primary school. Maybe think back to those days. Did you have one of those sets of felt tip pens where you had each felt tip pen was in its little place and you had all the different types of blue? Like we're males, like blue is blue. Yeah, we just say that there's blue, but the Noshim Tzidkonios know that like 18 different shades of blue and 14 different shades of purple, and you've got all these different things. And you just remember as a child when you got those felt tip pens and they were all in their right place and they were all in an order and you knew exactly whenever you needed one exactly where you should go and where you should find it. Now that's really the way it should be with ideas. And when a person is chas v'shalom going through a difficult time, they should be able to pick up the right Torah idea to be able to help them at that time. When a person is experiencing an opportunity to do chesed, they should be able to find the right Torah idea. When it comes to Limud HaTorah, when it comes to Tefillah, we should be able to know exactly where that right idea is. The trouble is that we know so much, but it's all higgledy-piggledy in our minds. And if we have a structure and a system, then it just means that we can understand things much, much better. So I don't know yet whether we're going to do it. We're going to see some of the Lashon, his beautiful Lashon HaKodesh that he writes. We'll probably do a lot in English as well. If you have your own Derech Hashem, that would be very beneficial. But don't go out and buy one. We're trying it right now. This is an experiment, and we'll see how it works. So without further ado, let's have a look at his Hakdama. So Yisro Yediyas Advarim al Maskonas Chalkeyam. I'll speak it out in English for a bit. When one knows a number of things and understands how they're categorized and how they're interrelated, then we have a great advantage over somebody else who has the same knowledge but without these distinctions. And it's like the difference between looking at a well-arranged garden planted in rows and patterns and seeing a wild thicket or forest growing in confusion. Most of us guys, we're not like so much into like gardens and plants and things. But I don't know if you've ever been dragged by your parents to one of these places where they have like this stunning flower garden and you've got and because everything is in its appropriate place, it just looks very beautiful. Much more so than you had all the same amounts of flowers and plants, but they're all higgledy-piggledy. When an individual is confronted by many details and doesn't know how they relate to one another and their true place in the system, then the knowledge is painful and it's a burden for you. And we may struggle with it, but we'll tire and grow weary before we get any geschmack from it. We'll have curiosity, but we don't have access to the concept as a whole, and it just becomes very frustrating. And if we wish to understand something, it's very important that we're aware of the other things associated with it, right? So how does this connect to something else? And without this, one's longing for truth will be frustrated and he'll be pained by his unsatisfied desire. So just to have the wisdom in some sort of a system is phenomenal. The exact opposite is true when you know something in relation to its context. Since you see it within its framework, you can go on to grasp other concepts associated with it, and the success will bring pleasure and elation, will bring us happiness. And when one studies a subject, we should try and be aware of the place of each element within the most general scheme. When one takes into account existence as a whole, including everything imaginable, whether detectable by our senses or conceivable by our minds, then he recognizes that things are not all in the same category and level. So I don't know if any of you do chemistry, but you look at the periodic table and you see just how things are connected to each other, and it gives us a much deeper understanding of every single one of those concepts. Okay, there are certain primary elements that must be recognized as part of the essential nature of each concept. Out of all the levels and categories, one should be able to distinguish the following: what is the whole idea? What is a part of it? The general, the particular, the cause, the effect, the object itself, and the associated categories. So this is just, I'm not going to go through every single paragraph that he's saying over here. We're just going to go through quite quickly the introduction. Okay. It's also important to realize the number of individual details is so great that it's beyond the power of the human mind to embrace and know them all. One's goal should be, therefore, to attain knowledge of general principles. And by knowing the principles, then you'll be able to grasp the details, right? Like we have in Masechta Makos, you have Tzadik Ben Manasseh Yichya, different Nevi'im and different people who would try and, is there a way of having a general principle? And then when you have that general principle, you can remember all of the details. And so that's one of the things, knowing what the principles are, and then being able to know the details. So he says, my intent was to set forth the general principles of Jewish belief and religion, expounding them all in a way that's clearly understood, to provide a complete picture free of ambiguity and confusion. The roots and branches, so you have a root idea, and then the branch ideas that come from it, are presented according to their place in the general scheme, so that each one can be put to heart and be grasped with the greatest possible clarity. And this book provides a basis of Mishon v'Hala Yekel L'chot Limtzei Das Alikim B'chol Chalki Atar Perisheho. This sefer will provide a basis which will make it easier for you to attain knowledge of Hashem through the Torah and through its commentaries, so that all the Torah secrets will be within your grasp, which is Hashem's blessing that He bestows upon you. So it's saying that once you have some sort of a superstructure over here, then as you go through life and you understand more things, you'll be able to sort of fit it in to your structure, and it will just be a machaya. Okay, I've called this book Derech Hashem. Kinehu klal midrochav yisbarach shemai shegilo lanu alidei neviyo vayidiyonu b'seirosai ubehem menaleinu menal kol briyosov. It's the way of Hashem, because it speaks of how Hashem runs the world as was revealed by His prophets and taught in the Torah. And these are the ways in which Hashem directs both ourselves and everything else He has created. The book is in 4 parts. The first discusses Klal Yesodos HaMetzius Uprotov, the basis of all existence and its details. So that is things like Hashem and what is the whole purpose of this world. Yeah. So this is the section called Fundamentals. Then the second one deals with providence, which is how Hashem relates to us. The third one with prophecy, how He reveals Himself to us. And the fourth one is about avodah. So the fourth one is about how do we serve Hashem. So the fourth chelek of Derech Hashem tells us about the idea of limut haTorah, avas Hashem, yiras Hashem, the Shema, birchas Kriya Shema, tefillah, going through the mitzvahs that we do every day, and like talis and tefillin and the Amidah, and also Yomim Tovim, and and brachos. So the fourth one is like very, very practical, and will help us how we relate and do all of the mitzvahs. But the first parts build up to that. So we're going to start not from the beginning, because the first chapter is actually quite tricky, and it's one that Bli Neder will come back to. The first one is about acknowledging Hashem's existence, how we can ever really understand Hashem, how we even know about Hashem, how imperative Hashem's existence is. It's not dependent on anything. The idea that Hashem is a unique unity, which is beyond our comprehension, and general statements about Hashem. Okay, now that's the bit we're not going to do now, because that's quite philosophical. It's quite hard to grasp. So for the purposes of our discussions, we know that there's a Hashem. He's not trying to prove any Hashem right now. That's not the purpose of this sefer. But it will just show how the whole of the Torah fits together as this amazing, amazing jigsaw puzzle. Okay, so we're going to start then with section 1, Perek Sheni. So what is the purpose of creation? What would you say? Why do you think Hashem created the world?
So you can serve him.
So we can serve him. So that's like he needs us to serve him?
He doesn't need it, no.
Because if he
generous.
needs us to serve him, then surely he's infinite, which means he doesn't really need anything.
He's giving us the trump.
Nice, very nice. He's giving us the opportunity to serve him. Yes, carry on.
So you can get schar.
So we can get schar. So it's all one big computer game, really. Huh? Yeah? So to get schar. And these are all right. But what he does, so again, that's what we're going to be learning now. We're going to be seeing how he understands this. And there's just amazing stuff over here. That if afterwards anybody asks you, why do you think Hashem created the world? You'll say, look, that's Derech Hashem, Chelek Aleph, Perek Beis, yeah, and you'll be able to look back to it. So, Tachlis Babrio, who lehated mituvi yisbarach shema iluzulosai. So his headline here, it's to bestow of his goods to others. So what are our axioms? Axiom means what are like our bedrock beliefs. Yeah, if we say that the purpose of creation is that Hashem wants to bestow of his goods to others. So tell me about that line.
He wants us to do good to other people.
Before that, there's something before that. He wants to bestow of his good to another.
He wants to give us schar, give us the opportunity to have schar by creating.
Right. So he wants to give us the opportunity to have goodness. So you're saying the reward that we do is that goodness. Yeah? But so far, it's that he wants to give us good. Right?
He's doing good to us, so he can do good to others.
Yes, but also he's doing good to us that we can do good for ourselves and between us and him. When we speak about doing good, there's Ben Odom L'Mokam, Ben Odom L'Chaver, there's also an idea Ben Odom L'Atzma with us and ourselves as well. But it's the bestow of his good. So we're going to now discuss that. Only Hashem is true perfection. Right? What do we mean true perfection? Everything else that there is, you can have like an amazing car. What would you say is the most amazing car? Huh?
Toyota Previa.
Okay, so that might be an amazing car, but it doesn't make you breakfast. Yeah? So you've got lots of things that are that what they do it very well. But we're saying only HaKadosh Baruch Hu is Hashleimus Ha'amiti, Hamashul Mekol HaChesroinus, is absolute perfection, free of all deficiency. There's no perfection comparable to him. Any imaginable perfection, with the exception of Hashem, is therefore not true perfection. Other things may be said to have perfection, but it's only relative to something less perfect. So let's say, the best car is a Toyota Previa, Estima, yeah? That's only compared to other cars on the market. But it's not absolute perfection, even amongst the things that, even amongst the car world, right? They're all things that are just compared to things less perfect. Absolute perfection is only Shleimusa Yisbarach Shemo, is only Hashem. Now, so far, point number 1, the only perfection is Hashem. Point number 2, Hashem wants to give you goodness. He wants to give you some good. Okay? So what sort of good would be a good for him to give you? He wants to give you goodness. But remember, the first thing that we said is the only perfection that there is really Hashem. So since Hashem desired to bestow good, a partial good would not be sufficient. If he's just giving us crumbs, or he's just giving us a partial good, that's insufficient. The good that he bestows would have to be the ultimate good that the thing that he made would be able to accept. Hashem alone is the only true good, and therefore his beneficent desire would not be satisfied unless it could bestow that very good, namely the true perfect good that exists in his intrinsic essence. What does that mean? That means that if the only perfection is Hashem, yeah, and he has created the world and humankind to be able to give over goodness, what is the type of goodness that would be the best type of goodness to get?
To let us do good.
A connection to him, yeah, to be able to tap in to him. If he is absolute perfection, and he wants to have, and he's created you so that you should get goodness, so he wants to somehow give over to you a connection to himself. This is also true in another way. True good exists only in Hashem. His wisdom therefore decreed that the nature of this true benefaction be his giving created things the opportunity to attach themselves to him to the greatest degree possible for them. Therefore, even though created things cannot emulate Hashem's perfection in their own right, we can't be perfect like Hashem, the fact that we can be attached to Hashem allows us to partake of it, allows us to have a connection of Hashem's, to latch on to Hashem's infinity, since they can be considered part of Hashem's perfection as a result of their association with him. They can thus derive pleasure from that true good to the greatest degree possible for them. The purpose of all that was created was therefore to bring into existence a creature who could derive pleasure from Hashem's own good in a way that would be possible for it. Let's summarize. Yeah? Hashem, ultimate perfection. Tachlis ha'tov lehetiv, which means Hashem, as much as we can understand him, and we can't really understand him, we're speaking to the extent that we can understand him, he wants that there should be creatures who will benefit from him. Yeah, the purpose of that which is good is to do good. Tachlis ha'tov lehetiv. So Hashem wants to create beings, and he wants to give you all goodness. What is the sort of goodness that he's going to give you? Chips? Now, chips is nice. I like chips. Yeah, chips are very good. Ice cream is good, but is that the goodness that he's going to give you? That goodness he's going to give you? He wants to give you the ultimate goodness. Now, the ultimate goodness is only him. You can't be actually God. But he can allow you to connect to him. And what he has done is he's created a system with people that have a capability to connect to him in the most amazing way, to the degree that he allows. But it's that connection to Hashem which will actually be the ultimate good. It won't be the chips, it won't be the pizza. Yeah, these are all good things as well. But he's giving us the opportunity to get the ultimate good. What is the ultimate good? A connection to him. Okay? Fine. Let's keep going, and we'll keep summarizing as we go along. God's wisdom, however, decreed that for such good to be perfect, the one enjoying it must be its master. He must be one who has earned it for himself, and not one given it accidentally or by chance. One sees that this arrangement is partially similar to the perfection of Hashem himself, at least to the degree that this is possible for Hashem's perfection is not a matter of chance either. God, however, is the one true perfection. He is absolutely, imperatively perfect. He has no fault. This trait is only God's, for no other being is perfect by necessity and devoid of any fault. Still, in order for a created being, to come to resemble Hashem to some degree, it's necessary that it at least earn the perfection that is not an imperative part of its being. It must avoid the deficiency that is not precluded by its nature. So let's discuss that. Hard words, hard concepts, lots to speak out, but important things. So he says, Hashem is Sholim ba'atzmai. Sholim ba'atzmai means he's perfect in and of himself. His perfection is not based on somebody else. His perfection is he owns it. He owns his perfection. With me? He owns his perfection. He's sholem ba'atzmo. He owns his perfection. If he wants you to have a connection with him, so then the way that you'll have that ultimate connection with him is in spiritual worlds. We can't hold somebody. Yeah, I could give you a hug. If we were in school, I could get arrested. Yeah, but I could in physical terms, I could give you a hug. How are you supposed to connect yourself to Hashem? He doesn't have a body, so how can you connect yourself to him? So that's by resembling him, to the extent that you can resemble him. So if Hashem owns his perfection, and he's giving you an opportunity to connect yourself to him, it means he's giving you an opportunity to earn your own perfection. With me? He's giving you an opportunity, but you have to own it. You have to own it. Hashem therefore decreed and arranged that creation contain elements both of both perfection and deficiency, as well as a creature with equal access to both. This creature would then be given the means to both acquire perfection and avoid deficiency. So what we're saying is that Hashem has put into the world perfection and deficiency, lack. And he's created creatures that have free will. That's us. Yeah? And we have equal access to both. And we've got means to acquire the perfection and to avoid deficiency. And by clinging to perfection, this unique creature, humankind, would make itself resemble Hashem, at least to the degree that it's possible. As a consequence, it becomes worthy of being drawn close to Hashem to derive pleasure from his goodness. So again, let's go from the beginning. Did Hashem create the world for himself?
No.
How do you know? Our axiom is that he's infinite, he doesn't need anything. Yeah? If he didn't create the world for himself, who did he create it for? For creatures. Yeah? That's us. Right? What would be the purpose of creating it for us? To give us the greatest good. One step first, yeah? To give us the greatest good, because that's what he is, the greatest good, yeah? So he wants to give us the greatest good. What is the greatest good? A connection to him, yeah? Now, in order to have, yeah, that connection to him, we have to own it. Just like he owns his perfection, we have to own it, and that makes us resemble him, and resembling him is giving us the opportunity for Hashem to draw himself close to us and for us to be close to Hashem. By means of acquiring perfection, this creature becomes fit to have dveikus, lidovek, to cleave to its creator, simply because through acquiring perfection, it has, in a certain respect, begun to resemble its creator. So if you work on yourself to acquire perfection, you're actually you're resembling Hashem. Moreover, by incorporating elements of perfection into ourselves, we cleave to Hashem's perfection, and we're drawn to him continually, till ultimately its earning perfection and its bonding in closeness to him are one matter. Yeah? So by acquiring perfection and by owning our perfection and by working on ourselves, we are actually making ourselves resemble Hashem, so to speak, which gives us a connection and is a reason for us to be drawn close to him. Is this too deep, or is this something which is a bit interesting? Is this too beyond? Is it, because if this is a bit too advanced, we can do something else. But are people gaining anything from this yet? Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Let's keep it going. Now, this is so because Hashem himself is the only true perfection. All perfection must therefore be associated with him, as a branch is attached to its root. Therefore, even though the root of perfection cannot be attained, all true perfection is ultimately derived and transmitted from this root. So we're not perfect, but by working on ourselves and perfecting ourselves, we can become like a branch that is connected to perfection. If we understand Hashem alone is the true perfection, it follows that in nature and in creations, every fault is merely the absence of Hashem's good and the concealment of his presence. That is, closeness to Hashem and illumination of his presence is the root and cause of every perfection that exists. Concealment of his presence is the root and cause of every fault. So basically it's saying that that coming close to Hashem and perfection are one and the same. So every time we're perfecting ourselves,